Singapore, officially the Republic of Singapore, is an island country and city-state in Southeast Asia. Singapore is a melting pot of ethnicities, with Chinese, Malay, and Indian groups forming the majority alongside Eurasian and other communities. The four official languages are English, Malay, Mandarin, and Tamil, reflecting the country's diverse linguistic landscape. The Sri Thenduyuthapani Temple, better known as the Chattiars Temple, is one of Singapore Hindu community's most important monuments. The temple was built by the Chattiars in 1859, reconstructed in 1983, and renovated in 2022. The National Museum of Singapore is a public museum dedicated to Singaporean art, culture, and history. It was established in 1849 by the then Singapore Institution Committee, and is the oldest museum in Singapore. Completed in 1835 by architect George Drumgoole Coleman, the Armenian Church of Saint Gregory the Illuminator is the country's oldest Christian church. Conceived in 2006, Peranakan Museum is the only museum of its kind in the world, exploring the history of Peranakan cultures in Singapore as well as other Peranakan communities in Southeast Asia. This was the former convent of the Holy Infant Jesus Chapel, which was designed by Father Charles Benedict Nairn. It currently serves as a function hall venue for weddings and corporate events. Built in 1847, the Cathedral of the Good Shepherd is the oldest Catholic church in Singapore. The church was raised to the status of cathedral in 1888. The history of the Church of Saints Peter and Paul is closely linked with the beginning and growth of the Chinese Catholic community in Singapore. The church with its tower was constructed between 1869 and 1870. It was erected by the Chinese Catholic Mission, serving a congregation of all the Chinese dialect groups and their Indian brethren. Built in 1870 and gazetted as a national monument, Sri Krishnan Temple is one of Singapore's oldest Hindu temples, and is the only South Indian temple in Singapore dedicated to Krishna and his consort Rukmini. The Sri Krishnan temple and the nearby Kwan Im Thong Hut Cho temple are known for having evolved a social practice termed as cross-worshipping, where many devotees of either temple also worship at the other. This practice is commonly seen as a microcosm of Singapore's multi-religious society. Kwan Im Thong Hut Cho Temple is a traditional Chinese temple, which is believed to bring worshippers good luck after praying to the Kwan Yin, also known as Avalokiteshvara, the goddess of mercy. Little India is an ethnic neighborhood of Singapore, a major hub of the Singaporean Indian community. Commonly known as Tekka, the historic center is known for the vibrant culture, buzzing nightlife, binge-worthy street food, and world-class shopping. This historical precinct in Singapore took shape in the 19th century along Serangoon Road, where early watercourses and swamplands near the Rochaur-Serangoon River corridor supported cattle bathing and fodder, drawing livestock trading and related occupations to the area. From the 1840s, cattle trading expanded with access to water and grazing, attracting Indian specialists in rearing, transport and butchery, who formed occupational networks and small enterprises around Serangoon Road. This is the last surviving Chinese villa in Little India. The building was built by Chinese businessman Tan Teng Near in 1900, which was restored and conserved in the 1980s. It is believed that he built the house for his wife. An iconic architectural landmark, the Sultan Mosque is a focal point for Singapore's Muslim community. Built in 1824 by Sultan Hussein Shah, the first Sultan of Singapore, the mosque is a vibrant symbol of the Muslim faith and a focal point of Singapore's Malay community. Named in 1909 after the capital of Oman, the Muscat Street was jointly redeveloped in 2012 by Singapore and Oman. The arches reflect Kampong Glam's role as a hub for Arab traders during Singapore's early history. The murals symbolize the maritime and trade connection between Singapore and Oman, which have continued to this day. The Singapore Indoor Stadium is a 12,000 capacity indoor arena, designed by Kenzo Tange and opened in 1989.